Hello everyone. In this video, we will learn one of the trigonometric identities, the compound angle formulas, or we can say sum and difference formulas. If I have two angles, alpha and beta, have been added together, and I need to find sine, cosine, or tangent for these angles, maybe if they are subtracted. There are certain formulas that we need to follow. So sine the sum of two angles will be sine the first angle multiply the cosine of the second angle plus cosine of the first angle multiply sine of the second angle. And for the difference, we change the sign in between them. Now for cosine, the sum, it's cosine of the first angle times cosine of the second angle, and we change the sign minus sine of the first angle multiply the sine of the second angle. And when it comes to the difference, we just switch the signs. Tangent, the sum of two angles, will be tangent of the first angle plus tangent of the second angle over 1 minus tangent of the first angle multiply tangent of the second angle. And for this difference, we change the signs. Now, what about the reciprocal functions like cosecant, secant, and cotangent? Well, when it comes to the cosecant, which is 1 over sine, that's going to be secant, cosecant alpha plus beta will be 1 over sine alpha plus beta. Or if it is minus, then 1 over sine alpha minus beta. When it comes to secant, let's say secant alpha plus beta will be 1 over the formula. And when it comes to cotangent, for example, alpha minus beta, you switch the, you take the reciprocal of that function. So it's going to be basically 1 plus tangent theta tangent beta over tangent theta minus tangent beta. Now let's see how we are going to use these formulas. So first question, use the sum or difference formulas to write the expression as the sine or cosine of one angle. So what we are going to do, sine times cosine plus cosine times sine. Which formula we are going to use? Again, sine times cosine plus cosine times sine. Sine plus cosine, sine times cosine plus, it's going to be this one. So we're going to use sine sum of two angles. So we'll go here and say, okay, that's basically equal to sine of the addition of 52 plus 18. And that's going to be sine 70 degree. Now we don't want to find the answer because he didn't say to find it. However, if you want to find the answer, you can find it by using the calculator. What about this one? Cosine multiply cosine plus sine multiply sine. Think about it. Which formula we are going to use? This one, right? Cosine difference of two angles. Cosine 16 pi over 21 minus 3 pi over 7. Now let's add these two angles. I'm going to multiply here by 3, here by 3 to have the same denominator. And that's going to be cosine pi over 3. And again, I just want you to write it as a sum or difference of two angles, of one angle, by using sine and cosine. Now this is very clear that it's going to be something related to tangent or cotangent. So 1 minus tangent 80, 70, tangent 70 over tangent 80 plus tangent 70. It's 1 minus tangent 80 times tangent 70. This is 1 minus. However, it's down. and the one that we have is up. It's the reciprocal. Reciprocal means 1 over tangent, which is cotangent. So we'll go here and say it's 1 over tangent, because it's the reciprocal, right? 80 plus 70. 1 over tangent is basically cotangent. 80 plus 70 is 150. Okay. Second type of questions. We need to find the exact value for each expression under the given conditions. So he wants us to find sine alpha minus beta. But what is alpha? What is beta? Alpha is, sine alpha is 4 over 5, and alpha between pi over 2 to pi. Where is pi over 2 to pi? This is 0. Pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. So if I say from 0 to pi over 2, that's the first quadrant. Pi over 2 to pi, that's the second quadrant. Pi to 3 pi over 2, that's third quadrant. And finally, 3 pi over 2 to 2 pi, that's the fourth quadrant, okay? So now, when it says pi alpha between pi over 2 to pi, we're talking about quadrant 2. Okay, we're talking about quadrant 2. Now about beta. Beta between pi to 3 pi over 2, then that's quadrant 3. Now, okay, so let's try to find out. We need to look at the formula. So the formula for sine alpha minus beta equal sine alpha cosine beta minus cosine alpha sine beta, right? Now, they already gave me sine alpha, which is 4 over 5. They gave me cosine beta, which is negative 3 over 7. So now minus, I don't have cosine alpha or sine beta. We need to find them. We need to calculate these two. So in order to calculate it, let's think about first this one. Sine alpha is basically opposite over hypotenuse. So if I have a triangle, right angle triangle, and this is alpha, 4 is going to be the opposite, 5 is going to be the hypotenuse. What is missing? The adjacent is missing. So we need to find the adjacent. So the adjacent is going to be equal to square root hypotenuse squared minus opposite squared. That's going to be square root of 9, which is equal to 3. That's the adjacent. Why do we need to find the adjacent? Because cosine alpha will be equal adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse is equal to what? 3 over 5. We are not done. We need to study the sign of cosine in quadrant 2. Based on cast rule, in the quadrant 2, only sign positive, so this is going to be negative. So I'm going to go here and write negative 3 over 5 instead of cosine alpha. We are going to do the same to find sine beta. Cosine beta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if I draw a right angle triangle here, and I said this is beta, this is going to be 3, the adjacent, hypotenuse is 7. We need to find the opposite. So opposite equal a square root, hypotenuse square minus adjacent square, and that's going to be equal to square root of 40, which is equal, in simplest form, to square root of 10. Now, you need to find sine beta. Sine beta is opposite over hypotenuse, which is equal to square root of 10 over hypotenuse, which is 7. We're not done. We need to study the sign of sine in quadrant 3. So the sine in quadrant 3, tangent only positive. So this is going to be negative. So I'm going to go here and write negative 2 square root of 10 over 7. And now you need to calculate it. So that's going to be equal to negative 12 over 35 minus 3 times 2, 6 square root of 10 over 35, which is equal negative 12 minus 6 square root of 10 over 35. Some people might take negative as a common factor, which is going to be negative 12 plus 6 square root of 10 over 35. Okay? You need to find your answer as an exact value, so you need to keep it as a fraction in a simplest form. What about this question here? Tangent theta equal negative 2. Theta is in quadrant 2. Okay, so cosine theta plus pi over 6 equal to cosine theta multiply cosine pi over 6 minus sine theta times sine pi over 6. Now, of course, here cosine pi over 6 is a square root of 3 over 2. And sine pi over 6 is 1/2. We need to find sine theta and cosine theta. How do we find them? From here. So let's do the calculation. If I have a triangle, this is theta, the tangent is negative 2 over 1. This is opposite and this is adjacent. So if the opposite is negative 2, we ignore the sign, right? 2. Adjacent is 1. So I need the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse will be equal to opposite square plus adjacent squared, which is equal to square root of 5. So by doing this, I need to find sine theta, which is opposite over hypotenuse. I'm going to keep the square root in the denominator for now, and then I'll fix it later on. Cosine theta is basically adjacent, which is 1 over hypotenuse. Remember, we are talking about quadrant 2, and in the quadrant 2, sine is positive, cosine is negative. So I'm going to go here and say, this is going to be negative 1 over square root of 5, and here's 2 over square root of 5. Now equal negative square root of 3 over 2 square root of 5 minus 2 over 2 square root of 5, which is equal negative square root of 3 minus 2 over 2 square root of 5. Now here you can multiply both by square root of 5. That's going to be equal to, down will be 2 times 5 is 10. And it's going to be negative 15, negative square root of 15 minus 2 square root of 5. Now in this question, cosecant x equals 7 over 4, where x is in quadrant 1, and secant y is 5 over 2, where y is in quadrant 4. Now they want us to find cotangent, and cotangent is basically 1 over tangent, cotangent x minus y. The formula for tangent x minus y is tangent x minus tangent y over 1 plus tangent x tangent y. And when we are talking about cotangent, we flip the ratio. So here we are going to say it's equal to 1 plus tangent x tangent y over tangent x minus tangent y. I need to find tangent x and tangent y. We're going to start with x. Let's say that this is x. Then cosecant is basically the reciprocal of sine. So that's going to be hypotenuse. This is going to be the opposite. So 7 and 4, and we need to find the adjacent. Adjacent equal a square root 7 square minus 4 square, and that's equal to square root of 33. So now tangent x equal opposite, which is 4, over adjacent, which is square root of 33. So you can go here and say 1 plus 4 over square root of 33, and here 4 over square root of 33. Secant y, 5 over 2. So what does that mean? Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So this is going to be hypotenuse, this is adjacent. So if I draw a right angle triangle, let's say that this is y, so that's going to be 2 and this is 5. We need to find the opposite. So tangent y equal opposite over adjacent. Now don't forget to study the sign. For the previous one, cosine x, tangent x, it is in a quadrant 1. So I know tangent is going to be positive. For y, we are talking about quadrant 4, and based on the cast rule in quadrant 4, tangent is negative. So I need to come here and I will multiply by negative square root of 21 over 2 minus negative square root of 21 over 2. So now let's start to simplify this. 1 positive times negative is negative, so it's going to be negative 4 square root of 21 over 2 square root of 33. That's the numerator. Denominator, you can do something like cross multiply, in which you will multiply this by 2 and you will multiply here by square root of 33. So that's going to be 4 times 2 is 8 over 2 square root of 33. Then negative times negative is positive. Square root of 21 times square root of 33 is going to be 3 square root of 77 over 2 square root of 33. Now for the numerator, I can multiply this by 2 square root of 33 and 2 square root of 33 to have a common denominator. That's going to be 2 square root of 33 minus 4 square root of 21 over 2 square root of 33, and the denominator will be 8 plus 3 square root of 77 over 2 square root of 33. This will cross out this one. So the answer will be 2 square root of 33 minus 4 square root of 21 over 8 plus 3 square root of 77. Now, in order to simplify, you can rid out of the radical in the denominator by multiplying by the conjugate, numerator and denominator. And this is going to be, the denominator will be 64 minus 9 times 77. The numerator you are going to expand. So it's going to be 16 square root of 33. 2 square root of 33 times negative 3 square root of 77 will be negative 66 as square root of 21. And then these two would be negative 32 square root of 21. And then plus 4 times 3, 12, multiply square root of 21 times square root of 77, this is going to be equal 84 square root of 33. Now if you simplify this, it will be, you are going to add these two basically. So it's going to be 84 plus 16, that's going to be 100 square root of 33. And then these two minus, that's going to be 98 square root of 21 over 64 minus 9 times 77, and that's going to be negative 629. Now you can take the negative up, that's going to be equal negative 100 square root of 33 plus, because when you take it up, you're going to put it here or you will multiply it. I prefer to put it here. So it's going to be minus here, and then That's keep the rest. So the minus here represent that this negative will be multiplied in the numerator. Or you can basically take negative as a common factor. It will be square root of 15 plus 2 square root of 5 over 10. Last question, secant 3. Sine theta is basically sine theta cosine pi over 3 minus cosine theta sine pi over 3. Again, we know cosine pi over 3 is 1/2. We know sine pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2. Now we need to find sine and theta and cosine theta. By using the secant is 1 over cosine, so that's going to be basically the adjacent, hypotenuse and adjacent. So this is 1 and this is 3. We need to find the opposite. Opposite will be equal to 3 squared minus 1 squared, and that's equal to a square root of 8, which is 2 square root of 2. So by doing this, we know that sine theta is going to be equal to opposite over hypotenuse, which is going to be 2 square root of 2 over 3. Cosine theta will be 1 over 3. We're talking about quadrant 4. Sine is negative. So sine negative 2 square root of 2 over 3. Here's 1 over 3. Now negative 2 square root of 2 over 6 minus square root of 3 over 6. You can take the negative out. So guys, that's everything for today's lesson. Please let me know if you have any question, and see you next class. Bye bye.